with y'all? It's your boy Prince the Hustle Guy, aka Wise the Warlock. And we reaching in that combat tool bag one more again. It is a cold black affair. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. LDBC only, LDBC or nothing. LDBC versus everybody. LDBC everywhere. Do me a favor, family. Follow, support, subscribe, join the community of everything. LDBC, Trilitary, TWT, Simple Truth Network. Um, Support my OGs. Check out my OGs. Kono Loco Sports. That's OG Loco to me. My OG K Hope. That's Black Fight Fan TV. Um, support the usual suspects. Support the usual suspects 6. Do me a favor and shop usualsuspects6.com. Peruse the site shopusualsuspects6.com. They have everything up there. Each usual suspect has their own merch line, has their own apparel, um, their own accessories and merchandise. Please support, please support, please support. And check out and support my little brother Black Sun and 94 Sun God on Instagram and YouTube. I also have two other YouTube pages, one HFO Church and the other Acting Right TV. And there are three ways to support this channel. There are three ways to support this channel, family. One, shopusualsuspect6.com. I have a merch line there with apparel and accessories, warm weather gear, cool weather gear, shoes, uh, your combat tool bag, if you will, a gym bag. We have everything there, accessories, sweats, leggings. Shopusualsuspect6.com. Get you some combat tool bag merch. Way number two, we have a book series. The Hustle God series is a financial literacy series, introductory level. It starts with workbook, Language of the 1%, Hustle God's Linguistics of Money. You'll also find in the series Hustle God's Afro Gold Part 1, um, Hustle God Art of the Hustle, and Hustle God Masterpiece Daily Golden Mind Molding. These are available on Amazon.com. That's the Hustle God series. You can type in Michelangelo Turner. All four books should pop up. The fifth installment is a collection of all of the books called Hustle God Methodology, and there will be a sixth book, but essentially a fifth book in the series to conclude the series. Um, lastly, the final way to support the channel is you can sponsor a fighter and sponsor a creator via donation. You can dive into the Cash App. The cash tag is #Hustle God Inc. That's Hustle God Inc. And you can donate while we're live. You can donate when I'm top of the mind. It doesn't have to be um, via the live, but obviously we'll read everything we can during the live. That said, let's dive right in, family. Um, this is Boxing and Breakfast episode 19. Boxing and Breakfast episode 19. So, pull up to the table. Welcome, welcome. Have a little bit of battle with your breakfast. Uh, that said, today's episode we'll be covering um, three fights. So we have Chocolatito Estrada um, coming up on December 3rd, which is this Saturday. Um, After that, we have Noyuya Inoue versus Paul Butler, December 13th. And following that, we have Charlo versus Zoo. That's Jermel Charlo versus Tim Zoo, aka Kazoo, um, January 28th. That said, let's dive on in and start analyzing these fights and breaking it down. So, and thank you everybody for pulling up, moderators, family. I appreciate it. Tap that like button for me if you can. Um, but yeah, so let's dive right in with the first fight, Chocolatito Estrada 3. So, Chocolatito Estrada, Chocolatito won the first time they fought by unanimous decision. The second time they fought, he lost by split decision. So they're 1-1. This is the trilogy to hopefully end all, basically be the end all be all. But that said, Chocolatito we know has a very tight boxing style. His guard is the high guard. He's active in his high guard because he rolls and catches shots with his shoulders, squats down to get under some shots. He rolls a little bit with it, like as far as rolling underneath hooks. Uh, Short, compact fighter. Uh, Very, very impeccable stamina. I mean, he's known for throwing, like, averaging thousands of punches thrown, you know. So, Chocolatito at 5'3", with not the longest reach in the world, he makes a way to land very often. And when he does land, he lands a lot. Um, Estrada, on the other hand, he throws a lot of punches as well, but is more economic. Yeah, is more economic with it. He's more slick if you compare the two. He's more of the stick and move style boxer out of the two. Uses angles, uses his feet a lot more than Chocolatito, and a lot better than Chocolatito, to be honest. Um, has strong control and wherewithal of his jab as well as his range. Um, Not crazy on the pop, but very decent, decent counter puncher. Uh, yeah, so the matchup is interesting. We've seen each guy, I mean, each style prevail at this point. So to say it's a 50-50 fight is an understatement. But who I have in this fight, I would say, would be Chocolatito. I like Chocolatito, and stylistically, um, I feel if there was a style to waver, um, more likely to waver or open up for opportunities, it would be that of Estrada's, as we've seen in the previous fights, as well as the fact that when he won against Chocolatito before, it was a split decision, not a unanimous decision. It was a close fight in which there were some swing rounds. Now, when you look at the unanimous decision with Chocolatito versus Estrada one, it was close, but there weren't as many swing rounds, and the rounds that Chocolatito won were clearer. Now, granted, Chocolatito is older than Estrada. Um, Neither of them are like fresh. Neither of them, uh, well, put it like this: both of them have been through some wars. That said, it'd be a very competitive affair. Um, I'm looking forward to this fight. I believe it's flyweight, so that's 112. Um, and they're gonna get busy. They're gonna expect a lot of punches thrown because of the them being them wearing a lot of wars on their body, them having a lot of wear and tear. I do expect a knockdown or two, like a knockdown a piece. You know, um, I expect it to be that competitive, but I have Chocolatito winning a split decision um, because I do see him trying to put a button on this or a bow on this, wrapping it up. But I do see that being an issue for him to create opportunity for Estrada to be advantageous. So I think there will be some swing rounds in this fight as well. I do think Estrada will have Chocolatito looking vulnerable at moments, but then I also know that um, Chocolatito's experience and uh, his his battle IQ will take over in the end. So I got Chocolatito versus, I mean, Chocolatito being victorious in a decision victory over Estrada in a split decision victory or majority decision, split or majority, one of the two. Opulent LD family, welcome, welcome, welcome. Have a little bit of battle with your breakfast. This is episode 19 of Boxing Breakfast. Pull up to the table. Appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you have a great day, bro. Um, yeah, so again, I got Chocolatito beating Estrada by majority or split decision. And in a very, very tough fight. A very tough fight, but I don't see it being close on like points. I see it being a clear victory for Chocolatito, as clear as it can be in a competitive final matchup trilogy that's essentially 50-50, you know. But moving on, we have Noyuya Inoue versus Paul Butler on December 13th. Um, so just 10 days after the Estrada bout, we have Noyuya Inoue versus Paul Butler. And um, where to start here? I mean, Paul Butler is relatively unknown. I haven't seen the guy before. If you guys have, you can drop any information you have in the chat and give any thoughts you may have on Paul Butler. But I'm in the I'm completely bewildered. Like I'm in the clouds when it comes to who he is. I can't even put a finger on it. So very I'm not certain at all on what he does well, what he doesn't do well, what his style is. So that said, this being a top rank darling, what's to be expected from the top ranked matchmakers? We expect Noyu Inoue, who is being built as their foreign commodity, their foreign superstar. They want him to look spectacular. So in steps Paul Butler. Again, a relatively unknown person who, in my opinion, is to be expected to be food for Noyuya Inoue. Granted, he may, at this level, Noyuya Inoue is a multi-division champion, um, quote unquote, or heavy quotations, knockout artist, right? So they can't just throw him in there with a complete cab driver or a complete tomato can. So expect Paul Butler to have some box IQ, to have some wherewithal, and have some athletic ability. And but do expect a deceiving record. I do expect him to have some a record that is, if we look at the Jermaine Franklin versus Dillian White fight, Jermaine Franklin's record was. I think his name was Jermaine Franklin. Yeah, his record was deceiving because he was he had a winning record. I mean, his record would look like that of someone who's a world beater, and then he goes in there and goes tooth and nail with one of the worst heavyweights out there. That said, you could expect a similar deceiving record from Paul Butler because again, this is an opponent brought to us by that of Top Rank. Uh, Box um, Big Texas, what's cracking with you, cuzzo? Welcome. I appreciate you stopping by. This is episode 19, Boxing and Breakfast. Pull up to the table, have a little bit of battle with your breakfast, and thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Have a great day, bro. Um, A1 Hoop Zone, I appreciate you stopping by, family. I don't know how you ain't wrenched up yet. Give me a second. Um, yeah, this is episode 19, Boxing Breakfast. Pull up to the table, have a little bit of battle with your breakfast. We just discussing No Yuya Inoue with Paul Butler on December 13th. And you wrenched up, by the way, now A1 Hoop Zone. So, but salute. I appreciate the support, family. Tap that like button for me if you can. Um, but yeah, so again, a relatively unknown opponent brought to us by Top Rank and Paul Butler. I say relatively because, you know, there are those hardcores that be like, hey, you know, I've seen him. I know who he is, and may have seen him in a fight with someone who is pretty decent, and maybe was able to hold his own. But other than that, we haven't seen anything from the guy. I can almost guarantee it. You know, uh, so that said, he may have a deceiving record. And how do people acquire these deceiving records? Well, there's different levels of boxing. You have the club levels, and the club level fights, they go from the fours to the sixes to the eights. Um, at the motherfucking judge, what's cracking with you, cuzzo? Welcome, welcome. This is episode 19 of Boxing and Breakfast. Appreciate you stopping by. Pull up to the table. Have a little bit of battle with your breakfast family. Just discussing. Just got through Chocolatito Estrada. We on Know You Anyway, Paul Butler, and I'm just discussing how people can acquire right now. Deceiving Records are essentially breaking down the relatively unknown Paul Butler for what we can expect from Top Rank's matchmaking. So there are levels to these fights, and there's the 4 rounders, the 6 rounders, and the 8 rounders that are essentially that can essentially be club level fights. Even up to 10 rounders can be club level fights because of the name cachet of the main event. Now, when those 4, 6 through 10s are on major networks such as Top Rank, ESPN, Top Rank and ESPN, or PBC Fox, or PBC Showtime, or DAZN Sky, DAZN, or uh, what's it, Golden Boy DAZN, then we get a different level of matchmaking there. Why? Because it's being seen on a national and international level. So the matchmaking has to be up to par. The deception has to be up to par. Uh, th- 1 second, family. Key Hype, I appreciate you stopping by. This is episode 19 of Boxing and Breakfast. Have a little bit of battle with your breakfast family. Welcome, welcome. Tap that like button for me if you can. I'm mod you up right now. Give me 1 second. All right, so you good now. Uh, but yeah, that said, so um, again, getting back to the topic of deceiving records. Now that we understand, the levels of matchmaking uh, are different between the club shows and the national big, national international big level promotions, the network level fights, the televised fights versus the untelevised fights. There's a polarity or a distance between the style of matchmaking and network fights and non-televised fights. That said, um, this Paul Butler, he may, even if he's undefeated, just using that as a hypothetical, um, if he's undefeated, it's most likely from untelevised fights, small local level cards. Even using an example for Jermaine Ortiz versus Lomachenko, uh, my OG knew who Jermaine Ortiz was, and a few people in the LDBC, a few people in the community, the family, knew who he was, but those are boxing insiders and boxing hardcores, right? And even the commentator said that Jermaine Ortiz, most of his fights were fought in in his local uh, state, in his region, and essentially club level fights. So the matchmaking again at I'm not going to say for Jermaine Ortiz, but for non-televised fights shows uh, an ability to not only build your fighter or move your fighter along easier, but you can completely throw tomato cans in front of them where you can't with as much uh, or as blatantly on televised or network fights. That said, give me 1 second. Um, Gamed Up Kennels, welcome, welcome. I appreciate you stopping by. This is Boxing and Breakfast, episode 19. Have a little bit of battle with your breakfast. Queen Tay Tay, the sweetest voice on the net. Welcome, welcome. This is Boxing and Breakfast, episode 19, aka Breakfast with the Champ. You know you gave me that name. I appreciate you stopping by, Queen. You make sure you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Uh, yeah, but dive right back in. Yeah, so for those who did miss, and my bad, gamed up, I got you as a mod now too. But for those who did miss, and just getting in, we covered Chocolatito Estrada. I got Chocolatito finishing a trilogy with a split decision or majority decision victory over Estrada. Um, but and we just essentially broke down how you can have a deceiving record and how you can be moved along essentially hiding in plain sight on non-televised cards and acquire a record that can be undefeated or just a very pretty record, but not actually be pressure tested, not actually be proven, and then be presented as an opponent or presented as a star, the opposite, um, for someone televised, and it not be seen so blatantly as um, uh, a cherry pick or as someone fighting a nobody or fighting a bum. So, and I use that because I'm completely unaware of Paul Butler, and I'm not sure how aware we are as a community and the insiders and the hardcores are of Paul Butler. So I said, of course, we have Noyuya in a way essentially win by stoppage because of the top ranked matchmaking, A, and then obviously B, because Paul Butler is unproven in all of our eyes, because what proof do we have from experience, from sight of him actually doing anything spectacular in the ring or actually being in the ring for that matter in front of us to perform at all? So that said, December 13th, I think you in a way by a stoppage, early or mid, definitely not late because again, who is this Paul Butler guy? But moving on to our last topic for the day, be in and out like a robbery, like Boots say, uh, is Jamel Charlo versus Tim Zoo on January 28th. Uh, Jamel Ironman Charlo versus Tim Kazoo, aka Tim Zoo, and yeah, he so stylistically. Let's go into the styles first. Um, Charlo, we know he was a boxer first, boxer, puncher by nature. Usually at the end of straight shots, ones and twos, and angles. Um, Came up under the tutelage of Ronnie Shields, and then made a transition to Derek James and the the EJ camp. And when he made that transition, he immediately said, "You, can I get there, bro? Can I get there, opulent LD?" Absolutely. We already know. But you already know. You gotta put the disclaimers out there, and give them the rollout type shit. So yeah, he made the transition to Derek James, and his style changed from boxer puncher to uh, essentially catch and shoot, seek and destroy counterpuncher. Um, and essentially a still boxer puncher, but he's slipped more to the side of anti boxer, which is dope because he goes in. Oh no, you good. You are definitely good, bro. I'm just like, I think we all got Charlo sleeping Zoo at this point. But I just want to give it to him like Black Kellerman. Let's say that. You feel me? Give him the actual little rollout, the circumstances, then give the style, and then give the pick. So yeah, Charlo, he's transitioning into the anti boxer where he's not in there to go tit for tat with you or win points or win the rounds. Like he's in there to actually hurt you and stop you, which is a beautiful thing to see because his boxing IQ is so high. So him to go to the side of the anti-boxer, it fits him. It works well for him, even though we see him in moments of adversity with like people like Tony Harrison or even rough trades with volume power punchers at the time, like Rosario. But we see him able to bite down and again sit down into that anti-boxer style and begin to pick people apart to the point where it's it turns ugly for him, right? Now, when we look at Zoo, and again, if you're looking aesthetically, you would say, yeah, he fights similar to Earl Spence. But if we look at Derek James and how Derek James fought, Derek James is such a great teacher because all of his fighters fight like how he fought. But it's interesting because Derrick James was the boxer of that catch and shoot style. Now you have Earl Spence, who is the closest to Derrick James and how Derrick James fought, but just a supreme athlete version of Derrick James, right? And then you have Jermell Charlo, who was a boxer first. Now he fights like Derrick James, but in a more street, more gritty counterpunching style. And then you have Frank Martin, who has like that Earl Spence style, but on skates, more angles, right? And so yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see the different elements of the Derrick James system and the tutelage. How specific he is. The specificity is key. Now, when we get to Zoo, I want to start with props first. So he's an accurate puncher. He can throw in volume in combinations. He can very strong athlete, a very strong puncher. Very very limited to me, very basic. Um, and yeah, like why stall? Like he's an Australian talent, so like and coming from Australia, he probably is the best thing coming out of Australia. Not probably, but as far as what I know, definitely the best thing out of Australia. But that said, it's not saying much because we haven't seen him matched up anything like matched up with anyone in America. And agreed, he is like a robot, like just like strong, very predictable, just very basic. Like I wouldn't even say straight up and down, but just straight down the middle, if you will. Oh yes, thank you for that reminder. Gamed up Kendall's Terrell Goucher was picking him up. Actually, he was catching him with you seen him hooks. He was catching him with them short hooks, and then Terrell Goucher something happened where he just gave up. I was like, what the fuck? Because in my opinion, Terrell Goucher was in that fight and Zoo was going tooth and nail with. But I don't mean to get to digress. But actually, there's more to say about that than there is to say about my assessment of Zoo in general. But uh, to sum it up, like I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. Fuck cuz like who is dude? Like Charlo is gonna smash on him. Like he's gonna smash cuz. Like pause. He's literally gonna step on some shit. He gonna go in there, put the flu flops on. He get busy with cuz. Sorry, let me get back into the professional boxing analysis of this. I look at Charlo utilizing angles. He's going to step in the ropes. He's going to utilize some angles. He loves to meet people in the center of the ring, but um, with Castano, he met him in the center of the ring and immediately began to use angles. It was beautiful because Castano was a trained style, right? Like he just comes forward chugging. And Zoo, we can expect that from him because he's not creative or from the waist down athletic enough to utilize any true angles or any footwork to actually confuse or frustrate Charlo. So Charlo would be dominant with the boxing angles and ring generalship. That said, we can expect the pressure from Zoo Charlo to be patient behind his jab and cross just to feel out Zoo to begin um, catching and countering. But as soon as he sees where he Charlo has such a good eye that if he sees that he affects you, not that he hurts you, not that he buzzed you or stunned you, but if he sees that a shot affects you, he's going to creatively find a way to keep placing that shot there, but not just placing it there. We see how Charlo punches. So when he accidentally send something out there that affects you, he's gonna harp on that as you should. He's gonna literally become obsessed with it, and he doesn't get blatant with it because that's where we see the IQ of Charlo. So he'll begin to hide it with straight shots, and then and because it's typically a shot to the body um, that does something to his opponent, whether it's a straight shot or a hook, but he'll hide it with some throwaway straight shots and then come right back down to the body, i.e., how he stopped Castano. He peeled him with a temple shot, right? But finished when he got back up, he started with the throwaway shots, straight shots to close the distance, and then came right to the body and literally punched him off his feet with a body shot. So again, we could expect him to use some throwaway shots after he sees him affecting hit after he sees what shot affects Zoo or Kazoo. Then he's gonna turn it up and see what hurts Zoo. And then we know what the Charlos in general do when they hurt somebody. Um, Jamal, I don't care what nobody say, Jamal and Jamel, when they hurt people, if you want to talk about like the best finishers um, in the middle of boxing, literally the middle weight division, you you would have to say the Charlos. Those motherfuckers, when they see you hurt, you're out of there. It's not no see you hurt and they try to finish you. They see you hurt and they get you out of there. Now, granted, Montiel, um, he was out of there with Carlos Adames, but he wasn't out of there with Big Charlo. Now, Big Charlo, I ain't even gonna speak on uh, his slowing up or his choice in fights because he's not on the agenda for today. But yeah, especially with Jamel, since we're talking Jamel, when he sees you hurt, he gets you the fuck up out of there. Ask Coda, ask uh, uh, Hatley, ask Banana, ask fucking Castano. He gets you the fuck up out of there. So that said, I'm looking for Charlo by stoppage against Tim Zoo, aka Tim Kazoo, on January 28th. What round do I see it? I don't see this going very long, to be honest. It does. It doesn't take. The thing about Charlo is it doesn't take him long to figure you out. The issue is Charlo. He'll after he figures you out, he gets obsessed with one approach at times. Now he doesn't get blatant with the shot specifically that he's looking for. He gets blatant with the approach to how he wants to finish him. So uh, that said, I think again it's not going to go long, but I don't see it making it past the seventh. So anything seven and down, I got Charlo um, at the latest, the seventh TKO or KO of Timzu, because the ref is gonna have to stop it if the motherfucker just don't lay down. Period. I once thought Big Charlo was the better of the twins, but since Mel got with Derek James, I've changed my opinion. Gamed up Kennels, it's like you took that right out of my head, bro. Or you was in conversations with me and my little brother, cause Charlo was like the better. Clearly, Charlo was the better puncher, and Jamel was the better boxer at the time, right? Like Charlo was stopping everything. Jamel was going to decisions at times, right? Um, and even if you look at their knockouts in their records, Jamal Charlo's like I think close to 30 and or about 30 fights and got like 20 some knockout. Jamel, he's 30 plus and got like he's in the teens with his knockouts, and and he's been on and he's been on a knockout streak since fucking with Derek James, but literally Jamal has become less of a puncher, or no, excuse me, Jamel has become more of the puncher of the brothers, and has, to me, found his identity like as a fighter, and is more rooted in his style now than Jamal was then, because Jamal seemed to be more rooted in that Ronnie Shields, Holyfield style in fighting, right? The being able to stand in the pocket and not essentially have to use so much of the ring and just be able to trade and beat you up, right? Um, he was married to that system where you could see there was resistance in in commitment with Jamel in that system. Jamel, he was a comfortable boxer, right? But you can see that he wanted to be more of a puncher. You could see that he wanted to uh, stop people, and it wasn't really working with that system. And then sadly, to be honest, he said it himself. That Ronnie Shields told him, "You're not going to get any stronger." Like, so essentially, he was discouraging him from from trying to be that puncher or becoming the puncher he is now. He was trying to encourage him to become more and sit more in that sweet pea system that Ronnie Shields was um, implementing with Sweet Pea when he was with Sweet Pea. Um, but that that wasn't what Jamel wanted. But yeah, not to digress too much, I completely agree with that statement, bro. Literally, like I used to think Jamal was better because he was more rooted in that Ronnie system and was knocking shit down, and it seemed to be just effortlessly, right? And Jamel, he seemed to have to work way harder for the knockouts than Jamal. And now we look at Jamel years later, married to that uh, DJ system, and it doesn't look like he's working as hard as Maul. Because if we look at just last performances, Maul fought Montiel, Mel fought Castano for the second time for Undisputed. Mel drops and stops Castano, and Maul gives everything he has and doesn't even stop or drop Montiel. And granted, styles make fights, and durability is different. But just in Montiel's following fight, he gets stopped in the second or third round by Carlos Adames. So, yeah, that said, yeah, I couldn't agree with that statement even more. And I think the world would agree with us at this point because think about it, like Jamel has went from being in the shadow of Maul, he was Lil Charlo to Big Charlo, and now he's undisputed Charlo. He's champ Charlo, and Maul is known as the Duck and Charlo or the my back Charlo. You know, it's spinal, it's in half Charlo. You know, but I appreciate that Opulent LD and gamed up. In my opinion, one of the greatest tools Derek has brought to Mel is correcting his timing and distance. Absolutely. Wasn't Maul's hand messed up in that fight though? Um, yeah, his hand did get messed up in the fight, key height, but um, I think look at how he fought in the latter part in the second half of the fight. He was still giving his all to try to stop Montiel. So he was using he was making it worse, like whereas Tank, he just stopped throwing his other hand, he just started using his right hand when he hurt his right, and didn't try to knock out um Cruz, Isak Cruz after that point, right? But Charlo, on the other hand, he continued to try to knock the guy out, but it wasn't working even before your hand hurt, right? So if it wasn't working before your hand was hurting, why would you try to turn up even more after your hand was hurting? So he makes the my hand hurt excuse null and void by toughing it out even more. I mean, by not just toughing it out, but by the way he toughed it out. Exactly, it's a lack of IQ because if you're gonna sacrifice your hand, at least sacrifice it intelligently. Don't sacrifice it for something that was um, futile before the fight was even halfway through. You feel me? And granted, he was stunning him, and that would encourage you to keep trying to hurt the guy. But if you hurt your hand, wouldn't you immediately think, okay, I have to deceive him with my hurt hand, and I can't um, it doesn't limit my shot to having to stop him to the body, but it increases my chances to have to stop him with the body because if I hurt my lead hand, then I'm not going to really hurt him with a right hook, a left hook up top, right? Because I hurt my lead hand and he's orthodox. So that would make me have to try to hurt him if I am going to try to stop him with a straight right to the body or a straight right to the head, meaning I would have to feint with the hurt hand. Um, but yeah, I had to get to this comment real quick because my man's, uh, yeah, gamed up kennels. He said, in the words of the great Mike Tyson, I broke my back. He said, you broke your back. He said, it's spinal. It's spinal. He said, it's broken. He said, in half. It's my back. He broke it. I broke it. But yeah, exactly. Key hype again. It's a lack of IQ though. Like if you're gonna try to pick somebody apart, you have to understand and recognize your limitation, especially when you're hurt. Not just um in every fight, like in every fight circumstances, you have to recognize your limitations, but you have to recognize them and be cautious of them even more when you're hurt, right? So Jamal, and granted, we included Jamal in this because we just couldn't stay away. But Jamel, again, he showed to come and eclipse his big brother. He's big Charlo now. Like there's no way around that. Like fuck twin Charlo, he's big Charlo. Like Maul is like who changed his name to Future of Boxing is suspect is suspect right now. We need to show improve and match that Selecki ain't gonna do it. The 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 no name white boys, the ranked number 9, 10. Nah, it's just not gonna cut it. If you can't get the champions, you can't get Canelo, you can't get GGG. Get them motherfucking rank right behind them. Period. Just fuck the bullshit. Just get the motherfucking rank right behind them, and at least you'll have a leg to stand on. Like, hey, look at the rankings of this guy. You'll sound similar to Bud, but it'll actually be true. Whereas Bud says, you know, um, he's actually not a bad fighter because, you know, he he's ranked number blah blah blah, and he's really strong, and just because you don't know him don't mean he's not good. But when you look at the scenario with Maul, if you pick the person just right under the champions that won't fight you, then there's no excuse. You're literally still fighting the best. It's really that simple. But that said, love y'all family. Appreciate all of y'all for stopping by. Really do. Um, you successfully reached your combat tool bag. Again, this is Boxing and Breakfast, episode 19, aka Breakfast with the Champ. Um, there are three ways to support the channel, family. Three ways to support the channel. ShopUsualSuspect6.com, ShopUsualSuspect6.com, and pick up some combat tool bag merch. We got cool weather gear, we got warm weather gear, we got hoodies, shoes. We got your combat tool bag, your gym bag. We have a 4-book series. Well, I'm gonna just say it how it is. It's a 5-book series right now, and we will have a last installment to the series. Um, it's a financial literacy series. It starts with the workbook, Hustle God's Linguistics of Money. That's the language of the 1%. You'll also find Hustle God Masterpiece, Daily Golden Mind Molding. You'll also find Hustle God Art of the Hustle, as well as Hustle God's Afro Gold Part 1. Um, they're all available on Amazon. It will also be in the description, post upload. And the third and final way, yeah, but please support the Hustle God book series. Again, it's on Amazon.com. You can type in Michelangelo Turner or type in Hustle God. Hustle God, excuse me. The third and final way to support the channel, you can sponsor a fighter or sponsor a creator by donating to the Cash App. Anything goes a long way. Anything counts. That's Cashtag money sign Hustle God Inc. Cashtag the money sign Hustle God Inc. All one word. Again, much love. Appreciate y'all for stopping by. Have breakfast with the champ. This is Boxing and Breakfast episode 19. And until next time, y'all, deuces.